From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Today on AgDay, as USDA releases its August report, we bring you team coverage.
We're at the Indiana State Fair, hear from Purdue University analysts about their reaction to the report.
Some of the most fertile farm ground in Illinois went unplanted this year. So just how many prevent plant acres did we have in 2019? We'll have the numbers today on AgDay.
In-depth analysis on what the numbers tell us and don't as this wild year continues.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. USDA releasing the numbers we've all been waiting for that would show just how many acres of corn and soybeans were planted. The market's tanking on the news. We have team coverage breaking down all of these numbers and what they mean for you. AgriTalk's Chip Flory, Farm Journal's Tyne Morgan is in Illinois, and AgDay's Betsy Gibbon at the Indiana State Fair. So let's get straight to those numbers. USDA now estimating 90 million acres were planted to corn, calling for higher yields of 169.5 bushels per acre. Now in July, USDA put the corn number at 91.7 million acres and the yields at 166 bushels per acre. As for soybeans, USDA predicting 76.7 million acres are planted. That's down from 80 million in July, but saying we'll still see the same amount of bushels per acre as in July at 48.5.
The big take home here is that corn acreage, planted acreage, was quite a bit higher than a lot of traders had anticipated. We had some very high, very attractive prices in the corn market during the latter part of May and into June. During that same window, we planted a whole lot of corn. There was late plantings this year because of the wet spring. I think that those prices incentivized farmers to plant a whole bunch of corn acreage, and I think that that's exactly what happened. Now, if it were not for the prevent plant, would we have actually planted 97, 98, 99, 100 million acres? That's very possible given these prices.
Checking out production numbers now, corn pegged at 13.90 billion bushels, slightly lower than July and higher than the trade average, down 4% from last year. As for soybeans, the number also lower here at 3.68 million. That's lower than the trade average and lower than USDA estimated back in July. Now, soybean production is off 19% compared to last year. And when you look at USDA's expectations for what was planted versus what they expect to be harvested, it adds up to the lowest numbers since 2012.
They also raised corn yield to 169.5 bushels an acre, which is a 3.5 bushel jump. While we've seen, and in their projections, they had both Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio down over 20 bushels from last year. The numbers were very bearish on the supply side for corn, if true. I don't think the total reckoning is there yet.
AgDay's Betsy Gibbon is at the Indiana State Fair in Indianapolis, where Purdue University held a discussion on the report. Betsy, lots of information to go through.
Clinton, we're in Indianapolis at the Indiana State Fair, and here Purdue University analysts give their reaction to the report, and farmers are here to listen in too.
So that kicks that size of crop for the corn crop up substantially more than we had anticipated, probably about 700 million bushels more. That this production number was a very big production number, and that we are looking at really pretty much prices not being able to do much. We saw corn acreage higher than the market anticipated, about 2 million more acres. Real surprise, I think. But I think the biggest single surprise was the yields.
And so I guess at this point I'm just very disappointed in what the USDA has given us at this point. I myself cannot see how we're going to come up with this type of a yield with the type of planting conditions that we've had.
In our area there's a lot planted, but I don't think the yield's going to be up there to where it needs to be.
Both Purdue University analysts say at this stage of the growing season, especially with how late this crop is, yield is just so hard to predict. Reporting at the Indiana State Fair, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
And for the first time, we're getting an idea of just how many prevent plant acres there are. The total prevent plant acres, a big number here, estimated at 19.259 million acres, with record numbers of prevent plant acres when it comes to corn and soybean. Farm Journal's Tyne Morgan joins us now from Illinois. She's been talking with analysts there. Tyne, we expected big numbers.
Yeah, Clinton, among all the data that the market had to digest on Monday, FSA also releasing prevent plant acreage totals. The agency said 11.2 million acres of corn went unplanted this year. 4.3 million acres of soybeans did not get in the ground in 2019. I'm standing here in DeKalb County, Illinois, and as you can see, there's a prevent plant field behind me, as well as a prevent plant field here to the side. Just here alone, 600 acres of ground did not get planted. And area farmers tell me prevent plant was a first for many of them.
We kind of set a date. You know, the 10th of June was about the last I was going to plant corn because we just were very cognizant of the hole that we were going to dig for ourselves in the fall.
FSA says in total, more than 1.4 million acres of both corn and soybeans went unplanted in Illinois in 2019, a tough decision that was ultimately dictated by Mother Nature.
It will make fall a little bit easier. I don't think we really know yet until we get to fall and see just what's our yield and how wet is this corn, how hard is it going to be to dry. I don't think we're really going to know what the correct decision was.
Now, Clinton, Jones told me in May he actually only had 2 suitable days to plant, and that was toward the end of the month. He actually got his planter stuck on Memorial Day. But he said despite that, despite the tough planting conditions and the rain shutting off after planting, he said things look pretty good. And as long as he can get that heat in September and timely rains, he thinks this crop will finish strong. Reporting from DeKalb County, Illinois, I'm Tyne Morgan for AgDay.
Now, I spoke live on Facebook with the head of the grains numbers at the National Agricultural Statistics Service, Lance Honig. Now, Honig, he talked about those prevent plant acres and the discrepancy between NASS planted numbers and FSA's.
Well, there's always a difference between the certified acres and the NASS estimate. Obviously, the NASS estimate covers everything that's planted, regardless of use or anything else. There's always some acres that don't get reported to FSA for a variety of reasons. Some producers don't participate in the programs. There could be some acres that even if they're participating, maybe there's no need to report if they're not going to be harvested for grain. So a variety of reasons there. And something that's a little bit unique this year that we have to keep in mind is with some of the changes to the rules for this season on prevent plant acres.
And checking where those ending stocks are right now, U.S. corn stocks at 2.18 million bushels, up slightly from July. Soybeans 755 million bushels, down from July. Now, China releasing its own numbers, saying it plans to cut its corn use forecast by 2 million tons. The Agriculture Ministry saying it's due to African swine fever. It forecasts last month's consumption at 280 million tons. China has said its hog herd declined by a record 23.9% in May from a year earlier, but some analysts say that number may be more than twice as high. As for the latest on trade negotiations with China, one expert says we may not see a deal until after the 2020 presidential election. An advisor on China with the Trump administration spoke with the Wall Street Journal. He said that Chinese press and individuals who advise the government say that China believes former Vice President Joe Biden will win the U.S. election. He said China believes the Democrats are much softer than President Trump regarding trade with China, especially when it comes to enforcement. Now, speaking of crop demand, EPA releasing its decision on small refinery waivers for the 2018 year. The agency approving 31 waivers, allowing refiners to forego the blending of renewable fuels required by the Renewable Fuel Standard. 6 waivers were denied, and the status of 1 more is unknown. The renewable fuels industry says the decision exempts another 1.4 billion gallons of renewable fuel demand.
This goes against the intent of the law of the RFS. And the intent of the RFS is to create market opportunities for ethanol. And they've gutted that.
The National Corn Growers Association president, Lynn Crisp, says, Mr. President, you proudly stand with farmers, but your EPA isn't following through, adding that between losing export markets abroad and ethanol markets at home, farmers are losing patience. Hunters will appreciate this story in today's Crop Comments. Meteorologist Kimberly Newman is filling in for Cindy Clausen today. Kimberly, lots of people are sharing this video.
That's right, Clinton. This video is going viral on Twitter right now, and for a fun reason. Hunter Jones loves hunting, so much so that he knew he needed to include it in this special moment. Just take a look. As he lines up his target, his girlfriend watching, the arrow hits the perfect spot, both on the target and in his girlfriend's heart. As he asks her, "Will you marry me?" she says yes. What a cool moment for both of them to share, although the deer, I'm sure, is a little unhappy there in the field. I'll have your forecast coming up a little bit later this half hour.
Coming up, it's not just the August report that's moving markets, how a fire to beef processing plant is also factoring in, plus
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
the cattle markets dropping in trade Monday after a fire Friday night shuttered a Tyson Foods plant in Garden City, Kansas. Tyson saying in a statement the plant will be closed indefinitely. That means up to 30,000 cattle will not be harvested for each week that the plant is offline. No one was hurt in the fire. Tyson says it plans to rebuild. The markets apparently shocked by the August report. Corn and soybeans dropping double digits.
That USDA report that we've been anticipating did come, and they had some whopper of a number, certainly for, let's start with the soybeans. The soybeans were lower. The acreage report did confirm the reduction, and it looks like the 76.1 versus the 80 million acres from June. It definitely just confirmed it. So this is a little bit of buy the rumor, sell the fact. There was a bearish report across the rest of the complex, and I think that also pulled the soybeans down. We thought there might be a little bit of a bump there, but it just didn't happen. Corn dropped and went almost immediately limit down. That USDA just said that there's big stocks in the U.S., big stocks in the world endings. That just tells us we've got a lot of grain out there, and with the harvest coming in, even though we've been kind of crippled this season, that puts a lot. Our stockpiles are going to start to really swell, and we need some demand to kind of like move that through. We had live cattle and feeder cattle both limit down. The fire at the Tyson food plant really pressed that market. The lower packer capacity and the tightened cash market is really what sent the market immediately. It opened limit down, expanded limits tomorrow. Watch out, this could be a wild ride. We expect that Tyson said that they would expect to rebuild without a doubt, but how long will that take? So the uncertainty is going to loom for quite a while right now. With the feeders limit down, the process uncertainty for the entire industry has people worried. I mean, they were processing 6,000 head of cattle. So there's going to be a mad scramble as to where they go. So it's going to take a few days before we can get our footing as to what's really happening right now. If no one's even worried right now about the U.S.-China deal, that's also kind of weighing negatively here. And we've been knowing that in the beef complex, we were looking for some kind of market direction or some news to give us some market direction, and we certainly got it. It broke out of that consolidated channel, certainly to the downside. We are in oversold conditions right now. Maybe we can get a rebound in the next couple of days. Maybe not. We're going to watch for that, but big volatility ahead.
Join Andrew McCrae for Farming the Countryside, a farmer-focused podcast that is all about production agriculture. Farming the Countryside is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and is brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, the world's largest provider of crop inputs and services.
4 weeks ago, we were already seeing some signs of drought across the nation, and those have intensified just a little bit over the next couple of weeks. 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, and now as we move towards more current conditions, you might not believe it, but the areas that were inundated by water through the month of June are now dry. We're looking for that rain in the Great Lakes region and specifically through the Plains states and most of the state of Texas. Hopefully some rain showers coming your way soon, but you'll notice as we move forward, the real driving force across the nation for some wet weather is this low pressure system. That's going to bring a warm front farther north, and warmer weather will pool south of that boundary. Heavier rain showers are likely to fire up, especially as we head into your Wednesday evening. Watch this. The cold front sinking farther south as the low pressure system pushes everything away, and you'll see very heavy rain popping up We're likely to see showers in Texas. This is good news for folks dealing with drought. And those showers will continue along the Gulf Coast and down into the state of Florida as well. Additional showers throughout the week popping up in the Great Lakes region, drier conditions farther off to the west. Meanwhile, rainfall totals are likely to really climb in the next few days. Most of the state of Florida has already seen a few inches of rainfall, and that number is going to grow as we move forward. Again, that cold front right here, the driving force of heavier rain showers moving farther south and more of that rain piling up here on the eastern seaboard. Temperatures over the next couple of days will stay relatively steady as we're under the influence of a zonal flow. In areas of Ohio, Indiana, Chicago, St. Louis, we're likely to stay a little bit cooler in the wake-up hours of tomorrow morning. As we head forward, more of that warm air will start to pool farther south, but this is a typical map for this time of year. This looks like August, right? As we move forward, we are likely to see that zonal flow taking over, if only for just a brief period of time, and then more of that heat under the influence of an upper air jet stream flow will bring in warmer temperatures and unfortunately drier conditions as well, influencing the future of that drought pattern there. Notice a little bit of cooler air sinking farther south briefly in parts of Washington, and again that zonal flow will set up, but now our jet stream is so far north that we're looking at incredibly warm conditions next Tuesday across the southern half of the United States. That's a look at the forecast across the nation. Now let's take a look at what's happening in your neck of the woods. Schoolcraft, Michigan, patchy early fog and a chance of storms, a high of 81. Smart, Virginia, humid with a chance of storms and a high of 86. And College Station, Texas, hot, dry and sunny with a high of 104.
Coming up, the dairy state continues to lose numbers. So where are the highest number of dairy cows these days? We have the answer next.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
The dairy state is continuing to lose dairy farms. Now, from January to July, the state lost 491 farms. That's according to the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture. It predicts the state could lose another 735 dairy farms this year. That would represent a 9% decline. Last year, the state lost 691 farms, a decline of nearly 8%. So where are the dairy cows in the country? The 2017 Ag Census says these are the counties with the most cows. As you can see, California dominates the list. It has 4 of the top 5 and 6 of the top 10. Wisconsin has 12 of the top 25 counties. What made you first start farming? A look at what drives this young farmer to break the mold ahead in the country.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
Let's face it, no one probably gets into farming based on a USDA crop production report. We know farming is a passion. That's about so much more than numbers. Our friends over at the Georgia Farm Monitor recently spoke with a first-generation farmer. She shares her story.
My name is Kristen Traw. I'm a first-generation farmer in Early County, Georgia. This year I'm growing cotton and peanuts, and I help out on a few different farms as well as farm on my own. I did not grow up in agriculture. My parents had a few backyard animals. We had goats, that sort of stuff, but this was a whole different world. It is very different to be a different stereotype in agriculture. There's a lot of great people who are more open-minded about what women can do in agriculture, as well as the different passions and skills that women can bring to this part of the world. I enjoy so many different things about being out on the farm. There's always something new, there's always some problem that needs a solution. There's so many different things, just from enjoying the wildlife to watching something that you planted grow and be harvested. There's so many different things that just make you really excited to get up out of bed in the morning. Well, it's commonly said that less than 2% of people are actually farmers, and many people are several generations removed from the family farm. And because of that, there's a lot of misinformation about what we do. There's a lot of misinformation about how we use chemicals on plants or how we treat our livestock. Those misconceptions really need to be corrected for people to understand that we love this land, we want to leave this land in better shape than we got it, and this is how we take care of it.
And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Start your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
AgDay's coverage of the 2019 Pro Farmer Crop Tour is brought to you by Ram Agriculture, built to serve.